Hello everybody, welcome to today's live stream. Hope everybody is good and well. Hopefully you can hear me. Let me just make sure my audio settings are okay. Should be good to go. Let me go over a few markets of interest today. We've started to see that dynamic between the US dollar and the Japanese yen start to change as well, which is something we pointed out at the start of the week. Didn't quite expect to see the sort of change as quickly as this week, but we've started to see that sort of change, and yeah, looking to see how that will kind of shape things up for next week. Obviously, there's some big data coming out, which has come out today and tomorrow. We had the unemployment claims out as today at 1:30, so they came in much lower at 202,000, but the NFP data is coming up tomorrow, which is going to be super important to see how the market kind of reflects the sort of announcement there in terms of what's going to happen if we do see the non-farm employment change come in a little bit lower. Is that going to sort of speed up the process for the Fed to maybe think about rate cuts? The FOMC meeting minutes last night kind of talked about the potential for rate cuts in 2024, but more towards year end. So that's kind of pushed back expectations that the Fed are going to cut rates as well. And like I said before in previous videos and streams, for a central bank to cut interest rates, it takes a lot for them to do that. You know, we only usually see rate cuts massively when we see sort of markets in trouble, and that's not what we really have at the moment. So that could be a positive for the Fed to kind of keep rates higher for longer, and that could also then see the US dollar get a little bit stronger. So yeah, it's going to be an interesting one today. Hello, Chris. Welcome to the live stream. Missed the euro move. I managed to catch a little piece of a euro short yesterday, but it was against the US dollar. I didn't manage to jump into too much. I got a little bit caught on euro yen, ended up losing a position on euro yen. I tried to get short in and around these previous highs in here, and that stopped me out because that yen did start to weaken in the end, which is something that I didn't expect to happen right away this week. I was looking for that potential yen weakness to come into play, but it just happened a little bit more quicker than I sort of anticipated. SYK, thank you for joining. So yeah, let's go take a little bit of a dive into sort of some of the markets. First of all, let's actually just quickly jump onto the currency strength meter. This is something that obviously I base a lot of my trading around, and I'll just kind of quickly show you what was going on that. So if I just actually bring over the VIP trading room, so if you do have availability to see this, then you'll be able to see some of the updates that I post in this room. Let me just change the view in here. Hi, Fran. Happy New Year to you too. Thank you. Hopefully we have a successful 2024. So yeah, let's dive into, so if you head over to the VIP channel, head over to John's updates, you'll see some of my updates in here. And one thing that I post every Monday is the currency strength meter. So we have a little look at this in a little bit of detail, and this kind of helps me base my trades for the week ahead. Okay. And one of the things that I like to look for is when a currency becomes either sort of, we could kind of class it as oversold or overbought in a way. Okay. And the dollar is at the lows of this. So basically this tells me that the US dollar is weak / in a reversal area. So what I like to look for is potential reversals at that point. So according to this, I'm looking for either the dollar to remain fairly weak or look for the strength to come back into the market, and the yen the same. I'm looking for the yen to start to weaken, and we potentially then go and look at sort of dollar yen longs this week. So I was still fairly short dollar yen until a breach above sort of 143, 144 was kind of my area to reconsider any kind of yen or dollar yen continuations at that point. And that's kind of what we've had here. So if I just flick back up to the US dollar yen, currency pair, you can see here. So I was looking to see if price breached basically this 142.80 high, you know, potentially even 144. I think if we stay above these levels here, I think this is a good opportunity to now start to see the yen weaken across the board. We also kind of looked at the fact that there could be sort of, you know, trend line resistance in here, which has breached as well. So starting to see that yen starting to weaken now. We kind of also discussed the fact that the lows weren't really seeing any significant closes below. That tells me that the momentum to the downside was fading, and now we're starting to see that sort of breach out to the upside as well. Afternoon, Vincent. I'm doing really well, thank you. Hope you are too. So yeah, dollar yen to me, potential for a little bit of a move to the upside here. Chris makes a good point. You've got the Nikkei as well that you can have a little look at to kind of gauge the strength in Japan. Just bring in, just open this up a little bit. Where is that? Going blind. I can't see it on here at the moment, so let's just type it in. Let me just make sure this is added to the watch list. There we go. It'll be on there somewhere. But yeah, you can see the Nikkei rallying as well, coming up into these kind of key highs. But what's been interesting, we talk a lot about bond yields and things like that. You can see that the 10-year bond yield has started to rise. This is the weekly chart. So we go down to the daily. We're looking at the bond yields to find some support around about the 3.8%. Bond yields moving higher can lead to some dollar strength in the market. That's what we're starting to see at the moment. Whether that's sustained over a longer period of time is still yet to be seen. But, you know, if we do see a move up to sort of the 4.1s and a move up to sort of the 4.25 area, then the dollar could continue to get stronger for a little while yet. So there's definitely some scope, I feel, for the dollar to get a little bit stronger here. What's interesting as well is the volatility index. So if we just go down to the VIX, we've been talking about sort of the VIX finding support towards the 12 area in here. And now that that's started to kind of play out a little bit, maybe we could see a little bit of higher volatility as well coming back into the markets. Let's flick over to, let's go back to dollar yen. I still feel like there's some good potential here on dollar yen. So now that we're kind of breaking back above 144, we can start kind of changing our mindset to say, where could price kind of head towards now? So we've got different sort of levels up towards the 146.25. And basically these highs are now areas of vulnerability for those traders that have been short from these points, right? So the market may want to go and target these points, and that gives us opportunities to potentially get long. So what I like to kind of look at this now is, now that we've kind of sort of getting that bias that the market is starting to push a little bit higher here, we start looking at our lower time frames to see if there's any kind of areas of support and resistance. Now, one thing that I like to look at is, especially on sort of the 4-hour hourly charts, how is price moving sort of within trend? And we can see that we've been in that sort of downward trend that has also been reflected by the 50 moving average kind of keeping price within that. We've now sort of breached above that 50 MA, and the market is starting to curl up a little bit here. So I would expect the market to start to make those higher highs, higher lows in that sort of transition now. So what I'm looking for here really on this 4-hour time frame is areas where price could come back into to find a little bit of support. So typically, if we're looking at support and resistance from a trend-based system, what you'll be looking for is when the market kind of makes a new high, you'll be looking at that area there as a point of potential continuation in the trend. Reason being is because if traders have got short here on that sort of expecting this sort of continuation and they're wrong, most likely is that they're going to want to try and get out at break even. So if price comes back to that prior high and they exit their short positions, that would obviously influence buying pressure in the market, and that's how you can use that in terms of trend continuation. So I quite like the idea of looking in and around this zone in here between sort of 143.67 down to 143. Obviously, I like to look at sometimes the extremes of that. So more towards that 143 level could be an area where we get a bounce. So like this. But it depends on how aggressive that market is going to be. If we see a really sharp switch for dollar strength and yen weakness, then there could be a good opportunity to just see a very shallow pullback and a continuation at that point. But yeah, I like this market a lot, to be honest. I like the idea of seeing price now pull back into this area. Like I said, towards the beginning of the week, I was still expecting the market to continue short until certain conditions were met. One of those was a breach above this high. We got that in the end. I was looking to see, could there be any kind of opportunities to the downside here? We didn't get that. That yen weakness has stepped in now, and we are starting to push a little bit to the upside here. So yeah, a move back into 143.67 looks quite good to me, with the potential opportunity to then see a move towards this level up here around about the 146 and above. I think it's quite a good target in the short term for dollar yen. Afternoon, Royston. Hope you're doing really well. Happy New Year. Let me know as well, guys, what kind of markets are you sort of looking at the moment? I've been focusing a little bit towards sort of dollar-based sort of price action at the minute. I ended up taking a short position on Aussie US dollar, and I ended up taking a short gold just through here recently, which I've already kind of come out of because of the sort of we had a nice little bit of a push on the data, so I ended up just banking that position. But I ended up getting short at 204.80 spot 80 in and around here. Ended up coming up just at these lows here around about the 204.40 area. That was really based off a lower time frame move as well. You know me, I like to look at when price comes up into a level of structure. I then look at the sort of price action around that level. So this was the higher time frame sort of resistance. If I just go up to the hourly, you'll see that this is the resistance here. We had a large spike into that level, dropped to the downside. The market came up into this point, and I ended up looking for a short position in here. I didn't take this move this morning, but I've been watching it pretty much all day. And as soon as we kind of started to sort of form that double top pattern in here, that's when I started to sort of execute on a move to the downside. And like I said, I've already come out of this move towards this swing low in here. So just a short move in there. I've left my Aussie US dollar open at this current moment in time. I do like the idea of Aussie US dollar moving to the downside. But there's a lot of factors here with gold. I think gold could actually continue down towards the 2019 dollar level. We can see obviously big support down through here, low volume push. So I do like the idea of price kind of exploring its way down to 2019 dollars. So I'm looking for those kind of potential shorts into that area, and just highlighting basic support and resistance levels. When price gets there, just waiting to see how the market reacts. Obviously, if you've got the beauty of volume data at that point, then you can look at sort of your volume profiles and things like that, and your sort of footprints to show us this sort of buying and selling pressure at those points. Right, guys, is NFP tomorrow or was it today? NFP is tomorrow. I know the week's a little bit confusing. I was confused all week. I forgot that we actually started the trading week on a Tuesday because of New Year's. So it's been a bit of a shortened trading week this week. But let me go take you through Aussie US dollar in here. This was kind of a larger time frame swing trading move that I used. And I quite often talk about this, especially if you've watched any of our recent videos. I talk about a very simple trading strategy, which involves higher time frame analysis, and it works on any time frame really. But basically, you want to base it off the higher time frame and then use a certain type of entry criteria. So the basics for this, if I just go and grab the 4 hour And just to show you, let me bring in Aussie US dollar on the side. So this is my entry in here. You can see the entry just there. This is open at the moment, and I got in it a little bit late, but just over a 1-to-1 at the moment, probably about a 1.1-to-1 at this current moment in time. Just kind of giving the option here, but I'm just going to show you side by side so you can see what I'm kind of talking about within these this move. So this was a 4-hour level of resistance, right? So the market has come into a weekly level. So that is a weekly resistance here around about that 0.6850. The market is then making lower lows and lower highs. And what I noticed was this little area in here. So the market has pushed to the downside and stalled around that point, right? Around about the 0.6750. So one thing we can look for is when price returns back to resistance, I like to look for one or two things. You can either look for a change in trend on a lower time frame, so that can be 5-minute, 15-minute, or you can look for a, I call it sort of a one step down, lower low, lower close candlestick, okay? And that's how I entered this market in particular. So if I just move this out of the way, and we go here, and I press down to the 1-hour time frame. So if you're using it on a daily, look for a 4-hour. If you're using it a weekly, look for a daily. 1 hour, 30-minute. You kind of get the gist. And we had the lower low, lower close candlestick form, which was that red candlestick there. I didn't short immediately. I actually shorted a little bit later. I got in it a little bit late because I didn't see the actual close on this. My alert went off, but I kind of forgot about it for a little bit, so I came back to it, and luckily I just saw that move there. Depending on how aggressive you want to be, stop loss can be above the high or above here. That's where my stop loss is, just above that swing high, just in case price wanted to go and seek the highs before continuing. So I ended up going short here, and this is an open position. But this is a way of how you can consistently enter the market, highlight a higher time frame, level of support and resistance, drop down one level, look for a lower low, lower close. Now, just to kind of show you how that's reflected on a 15-minute and 5-minute. So 15-minute, you can see that price comes in, hovers in here, breaks to the downside. Now, the lower low really doesn't come on the 15-minute until there. So if you were a 15-minute trader, that was your entry. You could probably get away with a bit more of an aggressive stop loss, and that would be your move down, probably about a 1-to-1 as well. Or if you looked at the 5-minute structure in here, you'll see that the market double tops, breaks trend. That's your entry here. Stop loss goes above the highs, and then you can see the market moves down. So a couple of different types of entry criteria that you can look at there. Like I said, I was doing a little bit of video analysis this morning, so an hourly chart for me just kind of works best with my process. But I like the idea of Aussie US dollar coming down towards this area in here. Reason being is because we had high volumes being built in here. The market has then breached to the upside. We've made a low, created volume again, and then pushed higher. So I'm kind of looking to see if the market's going to come test this low volume pocket. Okay, so a low volume pocket, if I get the fixed range volume tool, go from the swing low to the swing high, you can see low volume in here. The market tends to move quickly through these low volume points, but also the lows of them can be areas of support and resistance. So I'm looking to see, can price come back into this area here? That'll be my take profit, because we're either going to see a reversal at that point, or price may be accepted within volume. Okay, it may then try and build out this area, or go and retest the next level of volume, which is down towards those lows around the 65.50 handle. So that was my kind of theory on Aussie US dollar. Seems to be playing out okay now. Obviously, Rye guys pointed out as well, NFP tomorrow, so that's going to be big. You know, and I'll look to, you know, potentially close that position either ahead of NFP or do some kind of management on it as well. Vincent, I'm sure Aussie Swiss from 57.695. Is that the same trade that we talked about on Tuesday? I might still have it in here. I'm not too sure. I think it was the short from here, right? 57.695. Yeah, in and around here. stop loss is now at break even, partial profit taken. Yeah, I like that. I like that a lot. I like that because the market is at this sort of daily range in here, okay? And the market is obviously at support now. So yeah, I like that move because you've looked at it, you've took your position in line with your analysis, but you've managed that really well, okay? Prices come into support, you've took some off the table, moved your stop loss to break even. If it breaks and moves down to the next support point now, which is down through this area here, then, you know, that's a bonus, okay? That's a good bonus. So yeah, Vincent, I like that move in there. I was kind of having a little look at Euro Swiss earlier. This market was on my radar really because we saw on the currency strength meter, the Swiss franc was getting a little bit stronger. Euro was getting weaker. So I quite like the idea of seeing Euro Swiss short. At the moment on the 4-hour time frame, we've got a clear defined range kind of being built in here. So I like to be short from range highs, and we're not quite at the sort of area where I want to be short just yet. If I look at it from an hourly point of view, we have recently kind of made a little bit of a pullback and a continuation higher. So there's obviously some selling going on up here because we've had quite a large wick form on the last hourly, but I'd like to see it just get a little bit higher. Like, can we coming back into these kind of highs in here? And if it does, I would then again use that same process. I'll either go to the 30-minute time frame, look for a lower low, lower close candle, or I'll be down on my 5-minute looking for a change of trend. Can I see price push into this level here? Can I see it kind of fail to make a new higher high, which is important? If we fail to make new highs, it tells me that buyers aren't really comfortable above those levels and they're exiting their positions. That's when I want to try and get into a potential move at that point. You know, just to show you what happened down at the lows here. The market has obviously found support. We come back down. We fail to make a new low. Okay, it's super important. If the market's going to continue lower, you should see successful lower lows. If we don't get that, that's a big sign that maybe something's, maybe the sort of conditions are changing at that point. And then obviously we consolidate. As soon as we break into new highs, look at the volume that then comes into the market. Okay, that's where I want to be. I want to be on the volume if price can kind of push up at that point. So yeah, looking at potentials here for Euro Swiss based off the currency strength meter, but I'm just being very careful that we are in this kind of 4-hour consolidation at the moment, and I want to be short from range highs more than anything. So I'm going to see if price can kind of sustain that. If it doesn't and the euro starts to get stronger and we breach 93.50, then that idea is wrong. It's invalidated, okay? And the market may move up to the next level of resistance. Right, guy, I'm looking to get into Euro Swiss as well. I think the market might range for most of the day because of NFP tomorrow. What do you think? Yeah, I think you're probably right. I think as we kind of edge closer towards NFP, we can see the market begin to range. The Swiss franc and euro at the moment, obviously, a little bit of a dynamic going on there as well, isn't there? The euro has been weaker. The Swiss franc has been very strong. We know that because the market has been in a downward trend. The Swiss franc might just be giving a little bit back at the minute, whether that be profit taken or whatever that we've seen from this move. I think if I was to look at this from, let's see if I can get a fib on here. You know, I like to kind of put myself in the position of what are other traders kind of doing at the moment. So if I just pop on a fib here and let's just add on sort of some numbers, let's add on some extension tools as well. Let's see if we kind of come in line with anything. So if I just put that from that swing low there, so you know, maybe we're looking at 161.8 zone sort of profit taking. I can see that there's a half number here as well, 92.50 and 92.75 quarter numbers at the moment. So you know, try and put yourself in the mind of what are other traders looking at. You know, if I put on a sort of, let's see if I can get a stochastic on here. If you look at a stochastic, we're in that oversold condition. Okay, so a lot of traders are going to be thinking about buying here at the moment, aren't they? Because they've got the sort of options here Let's go 15. Okay, yeah, you can see in that sort of oversold condition, I can see that we're getting a little bit of divergence going on there. So you've got a lot of people looking at this market seeing as it's overextended and whatnot. So the momentum to the downside might fade in those type of conditions. Okay, so I like to look at sort of not just what kind of meets my rules, but also what will other traders be thinking at this moment. And you know, if we breach the 127 extension here, I think we're going to get that sort of longer term pullback. If we don't and we hold, maybe we will kind of push a little bit lower. Got to be a little bit careful with Euro Swiss. If I just go up to the monthly chart and zoom out, you can see that we're kind of in a little bit of new territory here at the moment. This chart only goes back to 2002, and I can't see beyond that. So got to be a little bit careful here, because you know, we might just see a little bit of profit taking start to go on, and we start to see a bit of a pushback to the upside here. So we'll see what happens. I think a lot of this Euro Swiss downward move has been driven by the fact that the ECB were kind of calling for potential, or well, were being forecasted that they will be the first central bank to cut interest rates. I think that's down to a large portion of sort of the German data that's been coming out. I'm pretty sure there was some today. Let me see if there's any data. Yeah, so we had German prelims, CPIs up to 0.1%, down from up from minus 0.4%. So data's been a little bit better there, but the ECB are going to have to try and do something to try and combat something like that. The German data has been pretty poor lately, so they may have to cut rates, and the Swiss National Bank at the moment are kind of hiking, or in a position of hiking rates recently, and they're kind of holding on to that at the minute. So when you start to see the sort of differential in the central bank speak, that can obviously cause the market to move. That's why I think that we're going to see Euro Swiss weakness continue, but we'll have to wait and see there. You know, I like to Euro pound downside as well. That hasn't quite kind of played out. We came up to the 0 spot 87, and we've started to push since then. But we haven't really seen that sort of move towards the 8,500 that I wanted to see at the moment either. And that was largely based off the fact that the ECB could be the first to cut rates, and the Bank of England could hold on to rates for a higher period, just because of the fact that the UK inflation is still quite high. So a quick flick over to Bitcoin. Bitcoin's been in the news a little bit lately. We've seen obviously price continue to rally. We're now into the sort of the 45,000, nearing that 46,000 level of resistance, which is this weekly level of resistance that formed back in April 2022. Price has tried to push into that. We've started to see a little bit of selling coming in here, but the price action of Bitcoin looks kind of bullish to me. You know, you've got the daily chart. Market came into this low in here. Wouldn't have actually been a bad idea to get long at 41,000 to try and target 46,000. But we've got this consolidation. I'm going to see what happens in this weekly resistance zone. Again, very similar to everything else that we look at. If price comes in here, you start to see conditions change. There could be a move to the downside here. I haven't really looked into the fundamentals of Bitcoin recently. I know there was some talk of ETF as well, but I haven't really dove into that into too much detail. So I can't really discuss the Bitcoin analysis here, because I don't have too much of a grip on what the fundamentals are doing in the market at the moment. But let's go flick over back to our dollar pairs. This is something that we can obviously take a look at. You know, we've been talking about the potential for the dollar index to sort of breach out of this channel area in here. I think that's going to be a major catalyst now to see significant US dollar strength. If we can see the basket break out of the sort of 102 spot 50 area, breach this trend line resistance, that's going to add a little bit more weight to the opportunity that the dollar could begin to get stronger again, and that can obviously fuel some opportunities. So Euro dollar downside at the moment. We talked about 1.09 zone as a support level. We've reached that now. Market is trying to find a little bit of support in here. Whether it does or not, we'll have to wait and see. Again, I think it comes down to that 102.50 on the dollar index. 102.50 breaks, and I think euro dollar's heading down to the 1.0750. Cable. Let's have a quick look at cable. I haven't actually looked a lot at cable this week. I did feature it in the week ahead analysis video, but I haven't actually looked at it since then, to be honest. I like the idea of kind of price finding a bit of resistance here, but the only reason for that is because we've found resistance at this 128 handle, and we rejected and closed below. So there could be an opportunity to see a little bit of weakness coming in here, but I'm only looking for a short term. I was only looking for a short term play, basically between that sort of 128 and 125. But I haven't actually had a little look at the pound recently. We talked about FTSE in December having a strong bullish period through December, and I was looking to get long in December on the FTSE, but I didn't actually get long. I was looking for a bit of a deeper retracement before the long, but December was actually pretty good. If we look at the 1st of December, let's just take the close of the 1st up to the highs. You know, we had like a 3.4% rally from the FTSE. You know, we're in this kind of area of interest as well. That would be a big volume level through here on the FTSE. Market's kind of finding a bit of resistance there. If we breach and head up to 7,900, you know, could we then see a little bit more of that sort of movement in cable? So definitely something to consider. Ifran, I'm looking at FTSE. There might be some opportunity to short it maybe next week. Yeah. So I kind of jumped ahead of you a little bit there. Let's see if I can get some data up. So got volumes through here. The most traded level within that area is here. And we can see that the market has started to find a little bit of resistance at that volume point. I'd be interested to see if we get a punch back into that zone, what happens next. You know, looking at the 4-hour time frame, we can see that obviously we had a bit of a sort of consolidation. We broke it, we retested it, sellers came back in, but we're starting to kind of push our way back to the upside. So I'll be interested to see, you know, maybe if we come back into this zone, do we get another opportunity to see price break lower? And that was obviously a very important level of resistance via sort of volumes. Trend line support kind of holding at the minute. I can also see this is a bit of a significant low, isn't it, that the market's kind of holding on to at the moment. So maybe if we look at this area in here, if you see sort of strong resistance coming in, that could be ideal. But if we breach below this sort of area here, below sort of 76.80, I think that's ideal if you want to be a short trader on the FTSE at the moment. Let me just see if I can bring back in that heat map that we had, that we were looking at before, just to see from a seasonal point of view. Where did I put it? There we go. So we were looking at where's the FTSE? I'm going blind. Where is it? I'm pretty sure it was on here before, no? Have we made that up? Because we were looking at December. I was looking at the most bullish currency, most bullish markets. Can't seem to see it on here. Maybe it was a different one we had before. Let me go over to equity clock. I know equity clock was where we had it last. Give me 2 minutes. Indices, we had the FTSE 100 index. Yeah, this is what we were looking at before, wasn't it? We were looking at the seasonals on equity clock, and we were looking at December in particular. January has a nice little peak in it, actually, Ifran. So there could be some opportunity there, like you said, coming into a volume level of resistance. And this is not as up to date as I'd like it to be. That is the average up until 2016. So this one hasn't been updated for a while. So we might have to take this one with a pinch of salt. I think you have to do that with seasonal anyway, because it's such a long-term average. You have to kind of look at it as well with the context of what's happening right now. But I do quite like the idea that the fact that we're at that key level of resistance seasonally, there is usually an opportunity to see a move to the downside there. So there could be some good opportunity there for a bit of a move lower. But yeah, I do quite like that. Let's just flick back to the heat map then, and we'll have a little look at the January column in here. One thing that we did point out previously was the fact that gold and silver, palladium and platinum usually have a pretty good time through January. We also have 10-year US Treasury notes and 5-year US Treasury notes. Could be a potential move. Look at the VIX as well, actually. The VIX actually usually performs quite well through January. So maybe that's why, you know, we're seeing a little bit of a boost there. US dollar also performs pretty well. Does say the Japanese yen performs well through January, but we're not really seeing that reflected at the moment. But yeah, let's go take a look at a couple of these. I know that, yeah, Ifran, I remembered your analysis on palladium, seasonal charts, coming back to that support again. Let's go flick back to palladium, because, yeah, we did talk about palladium before. And what I did like the idea of price to do was to come back down towards this area of support in here. We've obviously had a move up into this consolidation. There's probably quite a large sort of volume level through here. Yeah, look, you can see there's our volume. There's our most volume traded level. Look how prices come back into that, and we've seen a strong rejection away. So it was interesting to see where the volumes are now. If we move it over to sort of current price, we've got a very large volume level down towards 977. We've also got one kind of where price is at now, around 1,055 spot 50. So, you know, I'm probably going to watch this on a daily time frame. I haven't looked at it for a few days, but what I've been doing really is kind of making a note of those key markets that we've had a little look at, looking at the daily charts on them, just to kind of give ourselves an idea of what happens to the close. You know, this area in here, if we do start to see maybe a strong bullish candlestick form, that could be our idea to start looking at that sort of seasonal play. Let's have a look at it from a sort of more sort of longer term view. We've got commodity futures here. Let's see what we've got. We've got gold futures. Do they have any more metals? We've got platinum futures. Can't really see palladium on here. Maybe they don't provide palladium. Crude oil, gold. Let's just have a little look at how platinum plays out, because platinum and palladium kind of play out the same. And yeah, that's the kind of seasonal we're looking at really, isn't it? That move up to there. And this is a better range as well. If I just delete this off a second and move down, you can see January up until February usually get quite a strong move in platinum. we know that they kind of relate, because if we go back to this, we can see that palladium and platinum have usually a pretty good time through January. And you can see here, this is up to date. It's up to 2023. So yeah, that's quite an interesting move through there. So definitely one to watch. I definitely think is platinum and palladium. I think we looked at the platinum chart before and it wasn't as clean as palladium. So I'll be keeping an eye on this, see if we can get any kind of daily closes higher. If we do get a kind of bullish daily close, then that could be something for an opportunity. Royston, euro yen is heading into the area of resistance. Do you think it's to do with the yen strength? To be honest, I'm not seeing the yen strength at the moment, so I don't like the idea of getting short euro yen at the minute. I like the idea at the start of the week, but if we kind of think of the currency strength meter, it only kind of shows us what's happening from a week-to-week basis. And when it does get in those reversal zones, we do have to be a little bit on edge that the yen strength that we were seeing could turn into weakness quite quickly. And I think that's what we've seen. We've started to see that yen weakness come into play now. I'd be a little bit more interested if the yen could continue to strengthen, if it hadn't already sort of tried to sort of breach these highs. I mean, if I'm looking at it very in depth, we still haven't made a new higher high on the daily chart. So there is still a possibility that price maybe wants to sort of trade like this within that area. I'd be a little bit more confident to say, yeah, maybe we are looking at that reversal if we do see that. But I think, you know, euro yen coming into that level, we're starting to kind of see it breach that level at the moment. So it just looks very aggressive. That's a daily chart. I don't think there's any harm in waiting, to be honest, to see how it does react. If it continues to breach through, it continues to breach through. This is why we have those kind of technicals to help us in a way. You know, if you're looking at this as resistance now, let's say you're looking at, to refine it a little bit, that's your resistance. If you're looking to get short here, I would only get short if you get some certain conditions met. Do we start to see selling pressure come in? Do you see sort of a rejection? You know, do we get any kind of ideas that the market is reversing at this point? At the moment, we don't. Okay, there's no condition there for me to want to get short. There's nothing telling me that this is a chance to get short. You could watch the hourly, look for a sort of reversal situation here. And, you know, I always like to look at what's happened in the past. The market came in here on an hourly. You got the lower high. The market moved lower for a period of time before coming back and retesting. Could you look for a similar pattern again? You know, do you get a stalling into this point, a change in trend, and then look for your short? At the moment, like I said, no condition there to really suggest to me that this market's turning around at the moment. And if that yen's going to continue to weaken, let's look at it at a weekly point of view. You know, if we're going to start to see this weaken, it could easily go and try and head back towards the 161, 163.50s. So, you know, we are in that sort of zone here where the market was finding resistance. I actually thought that the one move that we would get, and is the reason why I got short in the first place, I thought that we would actually come and test this lower rectangle here. So you see this 154 handle. So I got short in and around this level. Let me just show you the loss that I took. Simply based off of price came into this high in here. Okay, I was actually down on a 15-minute time frame at this point, and the market gave me my conditions. So I actually went short here. Okay, so market came in, gave me the lower low, lower close. I put my stop loss above this swing high. I tried to target down towards that low there, and I also was looking for a move down towards that 154 handle, down towards there, and price stopped me out. Okay, price breached that 4-hour high. Okay, I know I keep going back and forth, but that was the sort of zone I was looking at, that 1 hour, 4-hour high. The market breached that. It's completely sort of gone against my bias at the moment. So that was unfortunate. I think it was it met my conditions. I was still worthy of an attempt to see if price could trade lower. But yeah, that to me is some real big yen weakness coming into the market at the moment. Right, guys, we've been running for about 45 minutes. I like to run them for about 45 minutes or so. So I'll probably leave it there. Hopefully I've answered all your questions that you've had. Thank you again to everybody that has contributed with a question or even just a hello. So I'll give a quick shout out. Thank you, Chris, SYK, Ifran, Vincent, Royston, Ryguy, Codit. Sorry, I missed your message, Codit. Hello to you. Rex, thank you very much as well. And yeah, I hope everybody has a good rest of your trading week. Remember, it is the first NFP of the year tomorrow, so volatility could be high. If you are in any positions, maybe consider managing those. And thank you for all the comments. And if you are new around here, hit that subscribe button, and I will catch you in the next video. Cheers, guys.